So the next milestone in our transaction is the home inspection. The buyer will conduct a home inspection. Let's talk about that. Does my contract as a seller have an inspection contingency?
Yeah, most contracts are going to allow for a time frame to go and inspect the property in a more detail than just your initial walkthrough.
What are they inspecting for?
Anything and everything. Anything in the home that might not be working, mechanical, electrical, roof, functional. I mean, the whole purpose of the inspection is they've already have a price that they've agreed upon, and now they need to dig deeper and make sure that based upon further inspection, they're still okay with that price.
So what does that mean to me as a seller? What should I be worried about or thinking about or expecting with this inspection?
Well, typically, we do recommend that you expect to have a list of things that are going to come up. Whether it's a brand new home or a 50-year-old home, the inspection report from a professional inspector is going to be about 50 pages long. They're going to come up with things. Typically what we see is anywhere from 5 to 10 things that they're going to come up with that they're going to ask for you to either give them a credit for or repair before closing.
So when does this happen? Do they make an appointment? How do I know what's happening?
Yeah, so the process that they will use is the same as if you're having a showing, because they want to have access to your home, and so they'll use the same process to get the access. And they have it open to whoever they want to inspect the property. They might just have a relative or a cousin come in that is not a professional inspector, but they have the right to have anybody inspect it. So they'll arrange the time, and then we typically tell you to not be in the property when they're conducting that inspection.
So who orders that inspection? Who's in charge of that?
The buyer.
Okay.
The buyer's in charge of setting up the time, and it needs to be within that inspection contingency time frame.
Yeah.
And another thing is that buyer's agent might be the one that sets up the time. Only talk to them about the time. Never go into more conversation about anything in your home. Leave that up to us as your agent to have that communication back and forth. It's better to talk less than talk more with other people regarding things in your home.
Can they back out of the contract as a result of this?
Well, just
Are there certain things?
Yeah, good question. Because just like the video on contingencies, this is a what if. I will, an only if, right? I will only buy this property if it meets my inspection requirements. And so that's where they leave it open, and if it doesn't fit exactly what they thought, they can back out and get their earnest money.
So what kind of things are they inspecting that they could back out for? Like if my roof is bad, or are there certain things that meet that criteria, or what's the scope they can back out for?
Yes, yes, and yes. Basically anything's covered. I mean, it could be covenants to your neighborhood, an HOA. It can be who is the utility provider, who is the internet provider.
I thought this was a home inspection. I thought it was.
That's part of the criteria for someone to buy a home. They might have preferences one way or another. I mean, they might need fiber, based on their job. They might need, who knows? It covers anything.
And that's probably why the important piece to the inspection contingency is that time frame. We don't allow that up to the day of closing. There's a deadline that they have to conduct, and then an inspection. And then put in writing all of the items that they want the seller to fix before we move forward with the transaction.
Which is another purpose of that final walkthrough, because they need to walk through and make sure that the things that they asked for are completed.
So how long does that actual inspection take? How long is that? How long does it take?
Well, if the buyers are present, it always takes longer. But typically, if it's an empty house with the inspector, it's going to be 1 to 2 hours. We typically say if you want to be gone for 3 or 4 hours, even better. Just try to block out a time where you don't have to worry about driving up, seeing that they're still there, driving away, coming back. Just try to block out 3 to 4 hours when you're not there. And if they're done in 1 hour, great, it's a bonus.
What happens if they find something? What's the process? Like if they find and they want, like you said, repairs, what's the process of how we figure out, can I say no?
Yeah, well, it's not about if they find something, they will. Even with a brand new home, there's always something. And so they will write, it'll be on an actual form, a real estate form, and they'll say, we've completed our inspection, and based upon our inspection, we are expecting this and this and this to happen, or a financial credit for this amount. Sometimes financial credits are easier because then you just give a credit and you're done. But again, they want you to do those things. You can say no, or you can accept it, or you can even negotiate back and forth. But it's a little risky to negotiate, because they don't have to agree to your negotiation or your comeback or your counter to their request.
Who does the repairs? Can I just have somebody that I know do the repairs and be good?
Sometimes, yeah. Whatever the buyer, whatever their request is, should be specific on who should do the work. And so we'll review that contract and that inspection contingency form with you and decide how that fits with your criteria.
Okay.
We found that attorneys typically recommend that it's done by someone professionally, because then if they don't do a good job, the liability goes back with that company. If you do it on your own, you could be opening yourself up to some liability based upon what attorneys have said. But again, it's a legal matter, right?
So on this, if I've had a previous buyer, let's say I've gone and they've done an inspection before, can we just use that inspection? Can that buyer just give that inspection to the next buyer?
It's up to the buyer. I mean, the buyer, sometimes they might say, yeah, that'll save us money. That's great. Many times they'll want to hire their own person and get their own opinion based upon them finding the person that's doing the report versus someone that might have a relationship with the seller now.
So who contacts me about this? Who do I talk to about this inspection and the contingencies and all those things and the repairs?
Your listing agent.
Okay, perfect.
The transaction coordinator will let you know when the inspection will be, and then when we get the response from the agent, they will then talk to the listing agent, who will reach out to you.
Excellent. So if you're enjoying these smart messages and you have any friends and family that can use our help, please introduce us.
And with good information, you can make good decisions.
Breaking news.
Breaking news.
Chad, from the news desk, tell us what's happening.
Well, I think what people are going to love is that we're trying to answer questions before they ask them. But being in this business for a long time, we hear the same questions over and over and over again. Everyone's unique, but they have the same concerns because this is the process. So these smart messages, I think, are going to answer people's questions, and they're going to feel like they already know, and they feel more secure, and they feel like the communication and trust is there.